Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Game Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to touch on one list for every detachment in the Tyranid Codex right now. So I did do this video a while back. However, Balanced Data Slate has come out, and we've got some notable increases and decreases in points. I thought it'd be a good time to revisit this list. Perfect for you guys who are new to 40k, new to the Tyranids, and want a starting point. I'm not going to guarantee any of these lists are perfect, but I think they are a great starting point, and there's ones that I would take to an event, maybe eventually tweak a thing here or there, but again, great starting point for you guys. So if that sounds good, do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Game Studios. We cover a lot of Tyranid content, so hopefully, if you're a Tyranid player, you're going to stay tuned for more. Battle reports, as you can see, we got a table set up for later. Data sheet deep dives on the beginning end, and just all sorts of other things. Thank you to our members who support us and allow us to keep doing this sort of stuff. And now, let's dive into today's video. So like I said at the beginning, there have been some notable changes here for the Tyranids with the Balanced Data Slate. Specifically, we've got the Screamer Killer and the Tyranofex who went down a lot in points, so that opens up those things to being useful in lists again. The Neurolictor unfortunately got a big point hike. Gargoyles and Pyrovores got a little bit of an increase, but still something notable because they were in a lot of lists. So taking these changes along with the others, let's dive into a list. First, I'll do a list over each detachment. In the end, I'll kind of talk about them a little bit more off the cuff, what I think the ranking is for each of them, and we'll wrap it up there. So first off, we will go into my old favorite, the Assimilation Swarm. Now, if you are a regular viewer on the channel for a while, appreciate you guys, you know that Assimilation Swarm was the one I loved dearly when the Tyranid Codex came out. I played this thing a lot, probably 20-30 games with it at least. I went to a couple tournaments with it, got 3-0s and a bunch of RTTs, did okay in the GT with it, ran into a few of my, well, actually the only big block that, or army that stops Tyranids dead in their tracks, but nonetheless, this was my love. Things have changed a lot with Pyrovores, Gargoyles, and Neurolictors all go up in points. I had a ton of those in the list. So for an Assimilation Swarm, I'm thinking this one's not going to be doing so great relative to the others, but this is the new list. So we've got a Neurotyrant. We've got a Winged Tyranid Prime. Now the Winged Prime will have the enhancement that'll allow the unit it joins to be +1 strength, and if they kill something, get an extra attack for the rest of the game. Great for melee warriors there. But those are the only characters. Battle line, 3x10 Gargoyles. I think Gargoyles are amazing, even though they got a point increase. And because we lost some things elsewhere, I'm popping 3 Gargoyles into the list here. In the other data sheets, we got a Biovore because you need one. 3 Harusfexes, they did not go up at all. A Maliceptor didn't go up at all. 2 Neurolictors, 2 individual Rippers, a Norn Emissary, 2 groups of 3 Pyrovores, and then an individual Pyrovore, and then a group of 6 melee warriors. Now again, this list is going to be a bit finicky because we're missing some key things and our Pyrovores are not as numerous. But essentially, the group of 2 Rippers and the Pyrovore, one of the two, you're going to want to try and babysit that Norn Emissary on the key objective. With that, the Emissary can keep reviving, and hopefully, with its singular purpose, is going to be hanging around for a while. Gargoyles do all your objective stuff, and the rest of the things are just there to do damage, revive, and outlast your opponent. I don't expect you to be killing your opponent, tailing your opponent with a Assimilation Swarm style list, but the main goal is to score as much as possible and just outlast your opponent. So that's the Assimilation Swarm. Unfortunately, probably took by far the biggest nerf of all of the Tyranid and Tyranid detachments, but I guess it's the price we have to pay. Now we'll go into one that's been seeing a bit of a glow up in my opinion, and that is Crusher Stampede. Nothing changed with the detachment rule or nothing changed with stratagems or anything. However, 2 key units went down in points, and that would be, like we said, the Screamer Killer and the Tyranids. Both units do very well in Crusher Stampede. So why don't we use them in the list? So first off, we have the characters. Hive Tyrant on foot. Crusher Stampede has amazing battle tactic stratagems along with the other strats. So the Hive Tyrant being able to use one of those every single turn is fantastic. Old One Eye is a great beat stick all on his own. So again, you're going to want him to just run around, threaten your opponent, cause some big damage to big units. But otherwise, you know, he's Old One Eye. He's regenerating. He's awesome. The Neuro Tyrant will be there. The Neuro Tyrant will provide Synapse because you want some Synapse. In the battle line, you could say no non-monster units. However, I am going to be using Gargoyles because Gargoyles are amazing. So 2x10 for them, just to help you score secondaries a little bit easier. In the other data sheets, it's a bit of a hodgepodge. And the main reason why I have created as a hodgepodge as I have is to convey that many monsters will do well in Crusher Stampede. Kind of pick the ones that you have and go with that, I guess. So I put a Biovore in, that I think is crucial. We have an Exocrine, a Harspex, and a Maleceptor, all individual there. Again, all great monsters. If you want to drop one to double up on multiple of those, by all means go for it. My point is mainly all of those will do well in Crusher Stampede. So pick the ones you want or bring one of each. 2 Neurolictors because Neurolictors are amazing. 2 individual Ripper Swarms because again, you need those for secondaries. 2 Screamer Killers are awesome. Screamer Killers are great in Crusher Stampede. They do not bracket at all, so they will always have +1 to hit as soon as they get wounded. And when they get below that half strength, then they will have +1 to wound, which will make them even better. They have a ton of attacks, benefit greatly from the stratagems that Crusher Stampede has. So 2 of them it is. A Trigon, I like the Trigon a lot. It's a little squishy, but the ability to pop in 3 inches away via a rapid ingress on your opponent's turn can really throw a wrench in your opponent's game plan. Yes, if a big anti-tank gun looks at it, it's not going to be long for this world. But if it hangs around, your opponent, you rapid ingress it, your opponent blasts it to pieces, except it hangs around on a few wounds, well, then it gets to charge in. It'll have its +1 to hit, which will counter its -1 to hit if it's that bracketed, and it'll have +1 to wound with a ton of AP2 damage 3 attacks. So I still like the Trigon. And then the Tyranno effects. Personally, I am a acid spray kind of guy, but I totally get the idea of Rupture Cannons are better in Crusher Stampede because as soon as they take a damage, you no longer have to rely on the heavy unless you are bracketed. So Rupture Cannons, you know, you could argue they're best in Crusher Stampede. I still really like the Acid Spray. It's such a threat in Overwatch to my opponents, and because I'll be using a lot of free strats, I might have the CP here or there to Overwatch with this tank. But if you like your Casino Cannon, Crusher Stampede might be the best detachment to play it in. So then we have Vanguard Onslaught. Now, I will preface this right now. Vanguard Onslaught is the one I have the least experience with. I've only played a few games with it. I understand it as a general whole that this is a scoring, sneaky, stealthy detachment, not a, you know, go kill my opponent kind of like the Crusher Stampede one is. And with that, when you're picking your secondaries, you might think instead of playing with tactical, you might think of playing with fixed secondaries. Cleanse might be a good option. Behind enemy lines, deploy teleporters might be good options. Think about it when you're building your list, because really, if you are going to be playing fixed, you want to build your list with that in mind. And I think Vanguard Onslaught has the tools to do that well. So, speaking of the list, again, if any of you guys who play Vanguard Onslaught a ton and do really well with it have some tips for people down below who might be asking, feel free to help them out. I'm just prefacing this right now. This is the one I have the least experience with. I want to be honest with that. So characters, Death Leaper, he can be the Warlord. Why not? 2 Broodlords in there. 1 for each of the Gene Stealer squads you'll see. One of them's got the Neuro Node. And then I got a Winged Prime with the Hunting Grounds ability. I really like the Wing Prime, what she brings to the melee warriors. So we'll add her for this. Maybe there's better options, but I like her. For battle line, 3x10 gargoyles in this squad. Gargoyles are great, and they benefit slightly better, even more in Vanguard Onslaught. And if you're going to be playing fixed secondary, gargoyles are great for that too. So 3 groups of them in there. The other data sheets, like I said, 2x10 Gene Stealers to join those Broodlords. They're a mixed bag in my opinion. If the thing is toughness 4, the opponent, toughness 4 and below, they butcher them. If they are T5 and above, they're really going to struggle. And if they are T9 and above, they're really, really going to struggle. I guess ideally they are lurking near the objectives, and once your opponent gets on the objective, then they can do some decent damage to it. I'm still not sold on Gene Stealers as a whole, but because they went down in points with the Broodlord, now is more than ever a better time to include them. So we're going to put them in there here. 2 groups of them. 2 individual Ripper Swarms. We have the points. Again, if you're doing deploy teleport homers behind enemy lines, perfect for that. 2 groups of 3 Von Ryan Leapers. Now this is a thing, if you're playing fluffy, ignore this, but I think Von Ryan Leapers really aren't that good when it comes to damage. Vanguard Onslaught, a lot of people say, I want 12 to 18 of them. I really don't think the points are invested well in bringing that many of them for such a semi-wet noodle that they are. So I like just bringing 2 groups of 3 of them, use them as screening or toying with primary or secondary play, but I don't think they're great as your main damage dealers. So I've just done 2x3. Done a Maliceptor for some synapse, some durability, some bulk, some anti-tank and heavy infantry shooting. 2 Neurolictors because they do well. 2 Lictors, and then Unit 6 Melee Warriors. I really like Melee Warriors. If you can tell, they die so sadly to indirect fire, things like Night Spinners and Plague Burst Crawlers, and even the Marine indirect fire, which you don't really see anymore, but those derpy indirect Nerf guns. So if you go up against those, they're boned. But if you don't, they do pretty well. So that's the Vanguard Onslaught list. Hopefully you can get something good out of that one. Now, Unending Swarm, the next one, I'm going to preface this one by saying this is the list I'm going to be spending the most time on over the next 3 months or so. So I'll try to limit the amount of times you see on the channel, but you will probably see a little bit more Unending Swarm than anything else on the channel, just because I'm trying to get as much practice in with it as possible. We're doing a team tournament in a few months, and this is going to be what I bring. So there you go, spoilers for that. Characters, Flyrant. I like the Flyrant in Unending Swarm. Theoretically, I haven't tried it yet, but it's a cheap Tyrant. It still gives the command point farming that it can do, or the battle tactics stratagem farming, rather. And its ability is actually really good in Unending Swarm. Instead of the Assault, because you don't need that with an army of Gaunts, you can pick a unit within 12 inches, and then on a 2+, that unit loses 1 attack in the fight phase. An enemy unit, of course. When your opponent is trying to gun through or gut through a big block of 20 Termagants, if a unit of 5 guys lose 1 attack apiece, that's likely 3-4 less Termagants that they kill. If it's a unit of 10, that's 10 less Termagants they probably could kill. So, well, it is 10 less Termagants they can physically kill. So I like that ability. Yes, you need line of sight to do it, but I think in our area, which is player placed terrain, I can manipulate that enough to make it work. And then we've got the Neurotyrant, because Neurotyrant, Tervagon. I like the ability, again, I'm going to try it for a bit, see if I really like it or not, but I like the ability to keep respawning on average 5 Gaunts to my main block of 20 Gaunts in the middle objective. We'll see if it's really worth the big points, because the lethals that it gives out are cool and fun, but not huge, but still, it's good. But mainly I think that respawning, and then I'll probably be putting Claws on the Tervagon. I like the Claws because it gives you some real anti-tank. If you need it, she can go in with those and just smash a hole in the tank, theoretically speaking. Battle line, big block of 20 Gargoyles. Gargoyles can cleanse multiple objectives if a big block of 20 can string out to 2 objectives, which they can. So that they can also move block your entire opponent's army, just cause havoc everywhere, tie them all up in melee with the surge move, and then for 2 CP you can bring them back. Then I have another block of 10 gargoyles. These guys are simply just to later rounds cause problems, deep striking in, doing whatever their shenanigans be. A group of 20 Hormagaunts. Now this is another piece, again, I'm toying with. I didn't have in my last list really any melee threat. And with the ability to do an auto 6-inch advance, allowing these guys to go 16 inches plus a charge, I think it might be a good include in the unit to allow them to just have that threat range to be in melee. I could go after someone's home objective. Maybe it's a forward objective that just has smaller chaff on it that I just need to clean out. But just telling my opponent, hey, my threat range is 16 plus 2d6 inches to tag you could be pretty good. So I'm going to try them, see how they do. Then we got 4 groups of 20 Termagants. Ideally, I think these are all running Spine Fists and the Flamer, 2 Flamers in each squad. Though I understand and myself do not have 80 Spine Fists, so a hodgepodge of weapons is fine as long as you have at least 1, preferably 2 of the Flamers in every single squad. 1, because they're devastating wounds, so you could potentially get some decent chip damage. 2, because they have the assault keyword, so if you take all Devourers, as long as you have a Flamer alive in that squad, they can advance and do actions, which is most important for this. Battle line, we got a Biovore, 2 Exocrines, 2 Neurolictors, 3 individual Ripper Swarms, and some Venom Thropes. The main thing, caveat, I'm going to be trying with this is running fixed secondaries if you haven't picked up on that. Cleanse, I think, is a very good one for the Gaunts to do every single turn. It focuses us on controlling the primary, which is what we want to do anyway. And then the other one is going to be probably deploy teleport homers, maybe engage, maybe storm hostile. Depends on the matchup, really. But a combination of cleanse and those ones is what I'll probably be going for and trying out for that. So stay tuned to a lot more Unending Swarm content, because that's what I promised and wanted to do these few months. Next, one of everybody's favorite detachments is Synaptic Nexus. This is a very good one and a great alternative to Crusher Stampede if you want something in some ways a little bit more competitive or a little bit better at shooting than the melee side. Synaptic Nexus, we are going to be running the Death Leaper, a Neuro Tyrant, and a Hive Tyrant. Important to note, I didn't say it in the Crusher Stampede. I don't think the gun is worth it at all on the Hive Tyrant. Don't take the Venom. Maybe in Synaptic Nexus you take a Stranglethorn Cannon. But really, I think you just do Claws and Flash with Bone Sword on it. Make him a full melee threat. Allow him to actually chew through a squad of 5 Marines reliably. Because otherwise he does struggle with that. Synaptic Control you can take on him. Or if you really want the Dirge Heart to go all Battle Shocky, you could do that. But Synaptic Control, you got the points for it. 2 groups of 10 Gargoyles, nothing to say there. A Biovore, 2 Exocrine, 2 Maleceptor, 2 Neurolictor, 2 Screamer Killer now, Rippers, Pyrovore, and then a block of 6 Zoanthropes. So the big include now are the Screamer Killers. And important to that is you have a key strat in the in Synaptic Nexus, which is the Smothering Shadows. If something fails a Battle Shock check and they're within 12 inches of a Synapse creature, you roll your 6 dice, and on 4 pluses that unit takes mortal wounds. Well, now with this, you have between the Death Leaper, the Neuro Tyrant, Shadow in the Warp, and the Neurolictors, you have a good array of chances to cause Battle Shock in the command phase, which could trigger that strat. If you fail there, you also have a good chance to cause it again in the shooting phase with the Screamer Killers, because they have that -1, which could also stack with the Death Leaper's -1 if you so choose. Maybe you've got that one unit that's really durable. There's like one Terminator or something stuck on an objective you just can't quite get to, or you don't want to send resources over there. Just hit it with this the Acid Scream, whatever it's called, I forget, Bioplasmic Scream, whatever. Maybe you do a wound to it, but then you can pop the strat. On average, you're going to kill a Terminator with that. So it's a good option there. Not guaranteed, but it's a good option. And they're just great in melee, and they love the detachment buffs if they're in Synapse. +1 to advance and charge, +1 to hit, 5 up invuln is every Screamer Killer's dream to have a benefit of one of those. That's pretty much it. Only thing I would note is I would probably play the Zoanthropes in Strategic Reserve, have them pop on and just delete what they, or try to delete what they shoot at. Everything else could probably stay on the board, barring the Ripper and Pyrovore as well. So that's Synaptic Nexus and Invasion Fleet. Now I'm going to change this. So I'm being full honesty here, transparency. This list you're about to see is John Lennon just won a GT with this list. I, not too long ago, no connection to him or anything, made a very, very similar list. And I wanted to at least put one list on here that was proven to win a big tournament. So John Lennon's list beat mine. I think the difference was I had less gargoyles and I had less rippers and I had something else in there. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there are some slight tweaks to the points, and we're using his list instead. So John Lennon's winning list here. Old One Eye. You finally have some bodyguards this list. Neuro Tyrant, Foot Tyrant, Adaptive Biology. Again, I prefer the Talons and the Flash with Bone Sword. I don't know what he used in his list. 3 Gargoyles squads because they are awesome and you need them. Biovore, 2 Exocrines, a Maleceptor, 2 Neurolictors, 2 Individual Rippers, 2 Screamer Killers because they're good, and then 2 Carnifexes with Death Spitters. Now, I am more of a fan of the Devourers. I love using the bucket of 48 dice, fishing for 6s with full rerolls, doing it again. Well, at least rerolling the misses. I like that. I like beating down my opponent with volume of firepower. However, the Death Spitters are a good option because they have higher strength, more AP, they just lose half the shot. If you're playing fishing for lethals, a whole bunch of AP2 lethal hits is no laughing matter. So I totally get what he's probably going for with those ones. So that's that list. I think it's good. Invasion Fleet, you do not have to play with the monsters. Really, you can also play a very viable Swarm in Invasion Fleet. But I do think the big standout is Old One Eye with the Carnifexes does best in Invasion Fleet by a mile. So if you want to use Carnifexes with Old One Eye, use Invasion Fleet. And I'm glad someone else is using the shooty ones. Everyone was calling me crazy when the Codex came out, or the Index came out, and I was running Doc Effexes with Old One Eye. Everyone said I was crazy. No, vindication right there. That the Doc Effexes are fun and good. So that is pretty much it for the video. I'm just going to quickly, I say do a tier ranking. It's 6 things I'm ranking. Obviously, bottom of the barrel, Assimilation Swarm, not going to be doing too hot in terms of a competitive play. I then would put in so that's the bottom tier, Assimilation Swarm. The next tier up, we'll call it frisky and fun. You know, you can play with it. Would be Vanguard Onslaught and Crusher Stampede. The main reason I say Vanguard Onslaught and Crusher Stampede is that they both have lists that can just, and every list has got something that they meet and they cannot deal with. Both of these I think have that matchup where some people can just deal with them or they cannot deal with the opponent more than these other lists. So I'm going to put them down here. They're not garbage like I think Assimilation Swarm probably is going to be, but they're good. You can win with them. They might take a bit more of a nicer matchup or a bit more thinking or outside the box to get them to work, but they're there. And then we have the next one, which really, if I'm being completely honest, is going to be probably the most used in your, we'll call them competitive staples list, which is going to be Invasion Fleet, Synaptic Nexus, and Unending Swarm. Those 3 I think are going to be taking the cake here as which ones are the best in my opinion. You've got your Invasion Swarm, which can just fit any detachment type. Synaptic Nexus is still powerful and it posts boasts some very good shooting units with it. And then Unending Swarm is long. It's a stat check army. It's basically, does your opponent have enough to deal with well over 150 gaunts, including the respawns and all of that? If they do, they might beat you. If they don't, and you move your models right, you're gonna win. I'm not saying it's an auto win. You guys saw me, I played it. It's not an auto win army. It takes finicky play and a lot of work, but I think it can be good. Maybe we could slide Unending Swarm down with Crusher, Stampede, and Vanguard Onslaught. I don't know, but that's generally my ranking. If I had to make very simple, basic tiers, it's Assimilation Swarm, Vanguard Onslaught, Crusher, Stampede, and then the other three on top as which ones would be the most competitive that I would look at right now. That's everything I've got today. Thank you everybody for watching. Put your comments in below. Type them up. Let me know what you think of my stuff. Do you have your own opinions? I'd love to hear it. I mean, I am not the only Tyranid player out there. I'm not the best Tyranid player out there, although I like to think I'm pretty good. I like to think I know what I'm doing for the most part, so hopefully my advice is good to you guys, especially the new players. And yeah, let me know. I'll see you guys next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.